Welcome. You are here with Dr. Nilda Perez with Business Foresight, creating strategies towards your extraordinary future. I want to welcome you guys back to the Dr. Nilda Business Foresight show. And today I have with me my co-host, Rachel Calderon, who is my CMO. And she's been with me for quite some time. And because today we're talking about branding, about presentations, and this is Rachel's forte, she's going to be here. She's going to be asking questions. So this is going to be a very interactive conversation. And today I have with me my mentor and someone I really look up to because he's been very notable in my business and in my speaking business. And I just want to introduce him. And I'm going to give you a little introduction of Dustin Mathews. So he does brand response, and he's been doing this for many years. He transforms businesses and brands. He is also the CEO or one of the CEOs of Speaking Empire. And he's recently written a book that's No BS Guide to Presentations. So with no further ado, he's been doing this for quite some time. I'm very excited to have him on. I'm honored that he actually to be interviewed by me. So with no further ado, so I want to introduce my special guest, Dustin Mathews.
Well, hey there.
Thank you.
I am excited. I'm excited to be here on the Innovation Show. I'm ready. Let's innovate.
No, I love it. Let's innovate. So, where I want to speak to Rachel, what are your questions for Dustin?
Well, I know the book is on presentations, and I know that a couple of weeks back, Dr. Nilda and I were talking about branding, about setting that authority and having a presence online. Today and age, it's not just about, just direct mail marketing. It's so much more because we have such a saturated market. And I know that I've been to, like Dr. Nilda, I've been to your mentoring classes, and they're they're out of this world. I've learned so much.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So my question to you, Dustin, is how is it that you, especially through this book, because we are going to be talking about the powerful presentations, how is it that you feel that this can give our clients a whole lot of authority, especially in this saturated market that we have?
Absolutely. Well, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing and the biggest revelation in the book, and just things that I've come across in doing research and working with folks from all parts of the world, is this idea that everything in life is a presentation. So whether you're marketing your business online, whether you're a salesperson and you're selling a product or service, or let's say you even do customer service or fulfillment, I want people to think about everything as a presentation. And the challenge is most people don't. So let me make that clear. So like I look at Disney, right? And we'll go to fulfillment first because everyone wants to go to selling and marketing. But so I look at Disney, you buy the ticket, you walk through that door, you walk through the gates, right, of Disney World, Disneyland.
Right.
And so that is a presentation. Now, most people are saying, well, Dustin, I don't see any slides or I don't see that. Well, the presentation of the experience. And so when you walk through those doors, you've got the balloon handler over here, the ice cream truck there, Mickey's right there, right? And so everything is choreographed. Do you think they're just letting that happen by chance? No, they're like the masters of extracting money out of families in a good way to create the experience. But like they have an idea, if they do something or change something up, present something different, that affects sales, that affects revenue. And so from that standpoint, now when you start to think about, okay, everything is a presentation, am I doing things that lead up to the action that I want my audience to take? And so I think the biggest thing in terms of innovators thinking about that is that, when you look at something, your sales presentation, a webinar, a Facebook Live, or even your fulfillment process, everything is an event. And so now what do you do? What do you do to enhance the experience?
I think that is the way you said that was perfect, because I was just telling Dr. Nilda this week that I came from the finance world, and I've been in finance for over since I was in high school. So I don't want to date myself too much.
Good one.
She doesn't want to date herself.
But it's definitely 20, since I was like in middle school, I've been working in finance, believe it or not. And I was
bring up those numbers.
Yeah, okay. A whole lot. Okay, let me just stop there. But anyway, I was telling her that even in collections, because I was very, very great at collections, I was telling her it's all about wording, about how I would get people. I mean, I was working for a company that was writing off $70,000 a year. And prior to me leaving, I think they got a little frustrated with me because they ended up writing off the last year $10,000. I was, it's like closing. I was getting that money in, so they were like, really? Mm-hmm. We really wanted you. So right. I totally understand where you're coming from when you say everything is about presentation.
Yep. I want to use you guys as an example. So, Dr. Nilda and Rachel, you've got that program that you're working on that, you've repackaged. And so you have this amazing box. And so for those of you that haven't experienced the box, you should definitely go buy it and get the program, because not only is it there valuable information inside about business and innovation, but they are leading by example. And so the experience of the box that you've created is amazing. And so there's a chess piece inside and there's all this sort of package experience. And so I know that, folks haven't seen your guys' program in physical form yet. We haven't shipped it yet. So the example I like to give in that case would be with an Apple product. So if you ever bought an iPhone or a Mac computer and you see that thing, it comes in that beautiful package. Exactly. That is a presentation, right? And so it's real easy. Obviously in the book, we talk about slides and presentation, but I also just want to bring some awareness, especially to the innovators, that, everything is a presentation. It's just not a lot of people are going around thinking that it is. And so if your job is to get people into action, motivate people, create change in your organization, you got to think in that context, in that frame, and you'll see better results.
Amazing.
Right. So is it fair to say that that what we want from the client, right, is that they think of presentations, they think of themselves even as a presentation. So from the moment that you're trying to attract a clientele or attract a client, from that very point is like you're on, pretty much like Disney.
Absolutely.
So you get those tickets because you saw a presentation. You saw a presentation that brought you there. Once you get there, they're still presenting to you, and they're presenting to you in the door and all the way out the door. The whole thing is a presentation, but it's an experience, and that experience is a presentation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I talk about in the book is this idea of choreography. So if you go to a Broadway play, or, it doesn't have to be on Broadway, but a musical, these folks practice hours upon hours upon hours to make the experience great for us. And so what I like to say is, if you have the opportunity, whether you're in a boardroom, you're raising money for a charity, or heck, let's say you are speaking on a stage, you're doing a webinar, Facebook Live. If you think about it, you only have so many opportunities in your lifetime, and in a year, of course, to be in front of your ideal clients or be in front of decision makers. And so you ought to give thought to this idea of, what can I do to influence in a positive, ethical way beforehand? Then what do you do to deliver the message that gets people into action, the action you want them to take? And then also, what are you doing to follow up? And so if you're in sales, I'm sure you've heard the fortune is in the follow-up. And so when you think about choreography, it's like, what do we do before? What do we do during the presentation? And then what do we do after to really get the result that we want in life?
Okay. And I tell you, that was the one thing that you taught us, that we spent time, because I had my presentation. I know that my system works. It was pretty well choreographed. Now, how do I get that into the hands of people that probably can't afford to do a one-on-one with me? They may not be able to do that. And what you taught me was breaking it down to the smallest denominator, which is presentation from beginning to end. And so that's really fascinating for me. I really love that. So tell me a little bit about the book, and what is the book about, and where, what are the things that most, because every book is great, but if somebody's going to read 3 chapters out of your book, what are the chapters that you say they are the must reads?
Well, in the book, I would hope
Let's
they would
face
read.
it, everyone doesn't read the whole book, right?
I know. I've been in that club too. So I would start off with irresistible offer architecture. So that's one of the title chapters in the book. And so it's this notion that, whatever you're trying to accomplish when you give a presentation, it's that there always should be some call to action. Now, I get if you're in a boardroom, you're not asking for money, but you're asking for buy-in. If you're in a charitable situation or an association, you can't sell and be forward in some. So I get that, especially for a lot of you innovators watching the program. And so, but the idea is, what do you want your presentation to actually come to? Like, what is the action you want that audience to take? And so when you think about that, what is the offer that you need to make to get them to say yes? But the challenge is most people go through saying, oh, I hope I look good. And what am I going to do in the title slide? And what's the content I'm going to teach? And those are all fine things. But when you start with the end in mind, with the offer, what you want them to do. And, for those of you that are selling, it could be lead generate or set an appointment to sit down and talk to a coach. It could be sell the product or service. And so you want to think about, okay, is everything I'm doing in this presentation leading up to that irresistible offer, whatever that means for you? And so I would say if there's only one thing that you could do giving a presentation, is just focusing on that offer that you're going to make in the boardroom or in front of people, and figuring out what is that irresistible offer that's going to get buy-in, that's going to get them excited.
Okay, I love that. So is it fair to say that what they're buying, it doesn't necessarily have to be something that they have to purchase with a credit card? Mm-hmm. So they can be buying an idea, or they can be buying your concept. Yep. So you can be doing this presentation for any reason in the world. And the bottom line is, what you want them to buy is whatever that idea or whatever that product or service is. So you have to see yourself as a seller.
That's right. And I know that's icky for some people. Whenever you say the seller, they think of like the worst used car salesman, on TV, or one they've experienced in life, and, people hitting people over the head with hammers and taking their wallet. And so the answer is yes, you have to be, an empowered communicator. You have to be somebody that gets people excited about the idea, about the product or service. And so it's helping them understand what the value is. At the end of the day, it's a conversation about value and really confidence. And so you got to be confident that there's value to be had in the situation, in the conversation, and you got to deliver and transfer that confidence to your audience. And so, yeah, you are a seller of ideas, and in some situations, a seller of programs, products, services, widgets, whatever it is that you offer. So the answer is yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would say, like, you were talking about salesmen, and everybody kind of cringes, but again, this can be even for your job. I mean, this book can actually be used for your job, because you said everything is a presentation. This could be for resumes. This to me, you said life is a resume. So, I mean, life is a presentation. So this can be used in many ways. And so obviously we're talking to business owners and entrepreneurs, but if this book could actually help everyone, because this helps you in every way. And like I said, presenting to collections, getting people to actually pay me what they owe me, I had to use a certain, like you said, irresistible offer, an offer that they could not refuse, that they would continue to purchase from me and pay back what they owe.
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the things I should communicate here is that when I first one of the things I should communicate here is when I first got started, I got started in a company where we did foreclosure presentations. And so we came up with this idea of putting foreclosure information online. And so it wasn't that attractive of a product. And so what we started to do was we started to invite people to come to restaurants, and we started giving presentations, doing it completely wrong. And so we started selling, the features, and, you can export it by clicking this button. And that's not really what they wanted. And so what ended up happening is we started refining this presentation. We started getting people excited about the product that we had. And so after refining that presentation, we would grow that company. It was called Foreclosures Daily to number 35 on the Inc. 500 100, we did $14 million in sales. Now, that was me working at a company, working for somebody. And I said, you know what, this idea of presentations and having this info product thing, this sounds interesting. So I left. And I found a partner, and they were a business credit expert. And so again, I put together a presentation, and what I would do is I would go around the country and I would do webinars, and I would share my message, this presentation, and I would get people excited about how do you get lines of credit for your business. And so we did $1 million in sales in that particular business. And I said, wow, this is powerful. And so one day, my partner Dave, now in the business, comes to me and says, hey, I need to reinvent. I need to, we need to come up with something. And I said, okay. And so I started asking him some questions, and he says, a lot of people are asking me about how do we do the speaking thing. And so I said, a lot of people are asking me about marketing. I said, this is the perfect combination. And so we decided to launch a new company by doing a presentation. We did a seminar, and we invited we invited a lot more, but we got 90 folks in a room, and we presented and made an offer. And thus what I'm doing now, and what you may see behind me here, is Speaking Empire. And so we work and train with people all around the world that do presentation. You'd be amazed at what kind of presentations people are doing in like really obscure niches like acupressure, not even acupuncture. And, chiropractors are doing lunch and learns, right? And Dr. Nilda is out speaking and delivering, powerful presentations. And so, for those of you that don't want to get up in a room or do a Facebook Live, you can automate these presentations and never have to show up. And so I just want to share the power of what a presentation can do for folks.
That's awesome.
So what would be the second chapter?
Ooh.
So what would be the second chapter? The second chapter that is just an absolute must read.
Absolutely. So I got to say, it wasn't written by me, but it was written by Dave. So reluctantly I say it. But the second chapter is you got to understand the power of the persuasive presentation. So there's a structure, there's a formula. And so in this chapter, Dave talks about the 5 core components of any great presentation that gets people into action. Not just the motivational, but how do you get buy-in? So from the audience, from the people that are there, how do you get buy-in? And so in Dave's chapter, he really talks about the architecture of persuasion and the architecture of influence so that you can get people excited and want to take action. That would be the second chapter.
Okay, that's awesome. Wow, that was wonderful, because it's not even a chapter that you wrote, but it's definitely a chapter that you see as critical to for people to read.
Just don't tell Dave.
And just don't tell Dave. Okay, and the third chapter?
Well, I'd have to give it to the co-author, main co-author, Dan Kennedy. And so what's interesting about what he writes about is he did some great work in the infomercial space. And so if you've ever seen Proactive on TV, right. He's helped and consulted writing the script and getting people to buy the stuff. And so if you think about it, that's a presentation, an infomercial, a video online, or in this case on TV. And so he talks about, the transference of, what are the tweaks that you do when it's TV? Or what are the tweaks that you do when you're trying to sell like a mass market product? And so I think that hits home for a lot of folks, out there. They can at least learn a lot from folks that are selling millions. And actually, Proactive was sold for $1 billion to a big company that escapes me right now. And so all around this idea of this presentation that they keep tweaking and refining and just mass blasting on TV to get massive amounts of sales. And so I think that's a very powerful example right out of the book that's applicable to everyone.
Okay. Dustin, I want you to give a little bit of background on yourself and what you've done, because you've been doing presentations, but other than that, you've also been doing branding. And I know branding is something that's the part in our business that you've been super helpful with. And you've been working hand in hand with Rachel. So tell me a little bit about that background.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I should first start off with this is the speaking story. So it's funny, I ought not be here in front of you today, and because I was deathly afraid to get up and speak. And so my story is I was at school, and in order to graduate, there was one class standing in front of me, and it was public speaking. So I took the class, and I remember walking into the auditorium, and it was a stage like this, but stadium seating, right? And so I get in that room and I'm like freaked out of my mind. And so eventually the professor comes out and says, hey, listen, you're going to have to give 10 presentations. 3 are going to be in front of these 300 people. And, you're going to do the others, in smaller breakout groups. And so I'm looking around thinking, well, wait a minute, did anyone else just hear this? And so I left, I retreated because I was like, I can do this later. And so it comes to that point where I need to graduate, make the parents happy, and move on with my life. And so I got to take this class. So I'm thinking, though, I can find a smaller breakout thing, or maybe I could do the virtual. That's when virtual stuff was starting to go. You could do the online class. So maybe there's an online public speaking class. And so I sign up for that class again, and I find myself in the same part of campus, and I find myself in that same room with the stadium and the seats, and it's the same pitch, 10 presentations right in front. And so I'd like to tell you in that moment, I conquered my fear, and I went out and made it happen, but I didn't. So I left, and I became so motivated to actually get out of this class that I found a loophole in the student handbook. And so basically, if I got a teacher to write me a letter from high school, I could get out of it. And so that's exactly what I did, is I got out of it. Now I run a company called Speaking Empire. And so Neil, to your point about branding, so I wanted to share that because I know a lot of people don't want to get up in front of a room. Like, I get it. And so you don't have you don't have to, Rachel. You can create presentations and record them behind the camera where they never see your face and no one's there live. You don't ever have to do it. And so don't make that mistake. But the branding question about branding is, I learned early on that if once I conquered this fear of getting in front of others. And I still feel that energy that, pulsates through my body before, I go live. And so once I decided to start presenting, I saw that people started looking at me different. They started to see me as the expert, as an authority. And so that upped my own personal branding. And so I became really fascinated with branding, with marketing, and this idea of PR. And so I fused them all together and have created what I call technology called brand response marketing technology. And nowadays you're seeing it online. You see these crazy, beautiful web pages like an Apple web page, but there is elements of copy and there is elements of direct response. And when you fuse in PR, it can dramatically change your position in your marketplace.
Right. And that same copy is what you put in your presentations. Is that correct?
Absolutely. The mindset of the copy is the same, meaning that you want to get people to take an action. So whether it's online and it's click a button to buy something or opt into your website or even join your Facebook community, whatever it is, that copy is still the same thing, whether it's in print on a web page, right? Or it's delivered over, over a webinar or over a Facebook Live. It's the words that matter.
So now I'm going to ask a question. How can this help someone like myself? Because, I'm more of the back end, and Dr. Nilda's kind of pushing me out there. She's like, you've got something to say. And I'm like, ugh. I get all tongue-tied. Yes. It's not that I'm afraid of what I know, because I know what I know. I mean, no one could take that away from me. But sometimes, like you said, it's that ultimate, that momentary fear that you get, and sometimes that really holds you back. So how do you feel this book can help people to really get you out there and to start, speaking like myself that I have to? I mean, you even told me you got to start.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the fear comes from a lot of different things, but the big driver of that fear is not being practiced or rehearsed. And so part of the practice and rehearsing of it is understanding what makes a good presentation. What's the structure? So number one is education. You got to understand what makes a good presentation, right? Then you start to put together your presentation and you deliver it, whether you deliver it in front of people or you deliver it in your room. You start to work through it and refine it, just like someone writing a letter, writes a first draft, they write a second draft, a third draft. And so you do that through speaking. And so number one is, I would say, understanding the architecture of persuasion. Number two would be practice. And then number 3 is kind of metaphysical, if you want to call it that, or, something I can't necessarily pin back to science yet. But it's this idea of like, Dave says, when you're nervous, get into service. And so oftentimes people feel like, oh, my fly will be down, or I'm going to look bad, or I'm going to completely forget everything. And so there's this pressure. And so that pressure comes from you wanting to look good and be your best. And so when you're nervous, as Dave says, get into service. The other thing I want to say that's sort of metaphysical is how you frame it. So I saw a Rolling Stone interview, and they asked 2 famous musicians this question, like, do you still get jitters when you go up there? You're afraid to get up in front of others. And so one of them was Keith Richards, it's Bruce Springsteen. And so he says, you mean that thing that happens when I get up on stage and that energy that courses through my veins right before I'm about to rip a ballad, or he said something like that, right? And so his frame was, I don't get afraid. He said it was the energy that goes through my body, right? So it's this frame of what you're experiencing. And so the other singer was someone famous, and so she had a completely different experience, and she talked about throwing up before having to go perform, and how people had to pull her out of the dressing room, and she was amazing singer. And so it was all in the head, the framing of what you're experiencing. And so I think with those 2 to 3 things coupled together, it will take you far. And so at the end of the day, you got to practice and you got to do it and refine your message. But those 3 things can take you very far.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for that information.
Okay. So I have a question, because there is a rather outrageous claim that you make that one presentation can actually make you rich. Mm-hmm. And first of all, define rich. Is this true? This is true.
Well, I've got a couple examples around that, and the answer is you decide for yourself. So whether or not you're political, you can look at our current president and say that he understands how to deliver a presentation. You might not like his style or delivery or even the message, but you have to admit that he understands this concept, very much. Obviously, strong sales background, even reality TV. So he gets that everything's a presentation, right? So number 1, think about that. Number 2 is, I mentioned Proactive. And so they're a $1 billion company based on infomercials of selling this. Do they sell elsewhere, offline and in print? Yes, absolutely. But the core driver of their business being the infomercial. And so to kind of take it down a couple levels, there is a client of ours here in Sarasota, Florida, that is a chiropractor. And he's got a 7-figure practice that he goes and he does these lunch and learns, and he invites people in the newspaper to come sit down, and he tells them about neuropathy and pain and how he can alleviate it all. And so he sets up appointments. He doesn't try to sell the service there, or the fixing there. And so they come to his office, and that's where, the sale or the acquisition takes place. And so the answer is yes. The challenge is most people give up in 2 areas. And the 2 areas are the presentation itself, meaning they don't give it enough times to really refine it and get it dialed in. And then the other area where it can stop them is they stop getting the audience. So it's real easy as a speaker to get bored of your own story, of your own presentation, because you're the one delivering it time and time again. And so changing the presentation is a challenge, but if you're not getting enough people all the way through, that also is a challenge. And so the real classic example I love to share is a musician. They become famous for a song, and everyone wants them to play that song, and they've got to perform it like it's the first time that they've ever, delivered it, to create that experience for us. Yeah. And so that's what I see the biggest challenges are. And those are the areas that you gotta stay on top of.
Okay. I love it. So, give me an example of some people that you've worked with that have really been successful as a result of the presentation and your methodology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talked a little bit about infomercials. And so earlier in infomercials, we mentioned Proactive. And so one of the clients we worked with is Kevin Harrington, if you've ever seen that show Shark Tank. And so he now has successful career as a presenter, keynote guy going out there. And so we did a project with him where he was kind of doing a off Shark Tank. And so he would do a seminar, a boot camp, and people could pitch him ideas in that boot camp. And so now he's going around kind of in a second or third phase of his career, one starting in infomercials, being sort of the godfather of infomercials and understanding presentations. And now he actually delivers them as a keynote speaker and a guy that puts on boot camps and seminars in education. So he's a famous one that people know. In the internet marketing world, if you follow marketing, Russell Brunson, we've helped him write some presentations. And so now he has a massive online company. And if you look at a lot of the marketing he's doing, he's taking everything that we taught him in the old school selling from stage. And now he does Facebook Lives, right? He does Snapchats, and he's leveraging all the new technology that's out there, essentially to deliver a presentation to get people excited about his program.
So one of the things that I know Dustin offer, and of course I'm going to be there, and I know that I'm going to be on stage. I'm very excited about it coming this June. And Amplify. Let's talk a little bit about Amplify, because Amplify is a very awesome you do these twice a year, and I know you have one in June and another one I think is early winter or late fall.
October. Yep, that's right.
In October. Okay. So tell us what is Amplified, who should be there, who absolutely should be there, and what do you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. So it's one thing to get a book and read ideas, right? You should definitely get the book and be a student of the game, but it's another thing to come in person and meet and witness and see it live. And so we invite folks like Dr. Nilda's coming and Rachel are coming. We invite folks that are promoters, that are speakers, that are authors, that are coaches here. And we're inviting media as well. So podcasters and people that write for Inc. and Entrepreneur are going to be here, and people looking for stages. And so Amplify is really about finding the message inside, because it's our belief everyone has a message. Most people don't know how to monetize that message. So we talk about monetization. And then finally, the third benefit would be amplify. So like once you have something that does convert, that gets people into action, how do you amplify it? How do you share it with others in social media, online, offline? And so Amplify is really a gathering of high-level leaders that are committed to sharing their message in many media. And so we just share our best practices here at Speaking Empire. And you're kind of getting a little preview. It's actually going to be held here at our international headquarters, which is in Largo, Florida, which is Tampa. And so this is going to be our room here for the first time ever. So I'm excited that you asked me about that. Because it is such a powerful event, especially if you're a type of person that likes to come and rub shoulders and meet and, learn it, through experience.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I really recommend that people go, because just being around you guys is a learning experience. I feel that we're constantly learning and we're constantly growing, not just the lingo, but real, tangible, real tangible things. So I highly recommend Amplified, and I would love if anybody who needs to be there, everybody who wants to be there, who wants to up their game. I think it's an excellent experience. So beyond just the awesome people that you're going to have presenting there, there's also just what you learn. You just walk away with so much. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So if they wanted to get a hold of your book, where would they go?
Oh, good question. NoBSpresentations.com. It's nice and easy there because I've put Amazon, Barnes & Noble. So wherever you shop, there's a logo on there. And the one thing I would ask you to check out is the book, right? And I can't put videos in books. And so what I've done is I put some bonuses. And so when you get the book, make sure to go and visit the links inside so you can see a demonstration of a good presentation. You can get some templates and tools and resources to implement a whole lot quicker. And the final thing I'll say is when you go to NoBSpresentations.com, you'll see a page for multiple book purchases. And so the reason why you would want to do that is I've got other bonuses. And so you buy 5 and you get tools and resources. If you'd like to come to Amplify Experience, my recommendation is you go there and you buy the X amount of books. I can't remember if it's 25 or 50, but you buy those books and you actually get a ticket to Amplify. Plus you've got 25 books to give out to clients, to give out to people, prospects in your community, in your world. And so make sure to look out for the multiple book offer there at nobspresentations.com.
And just to interject here, that is just a fraction of what the actual classes are like. I mean, but just my book is in the mail, so I'm like super excited. I'm not home. I'm traveling right now, so I will be there with my book so that I can have Mr. Dustin sign my book. I can't wait. And also we'll be joining you in Amplify. So, but I encourage people to definitely go to Amplify and possibly even, I mean, take the presentation classes. These are awesome classes. I mean, I think both Dr. Nilda and I sleep. Didn't sleep, but we got it done and we loved it.
Sure. Okay, so Dustin, any last words? We want your words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom. Wow, that's a tall order. Well, I have this to offer.
Oh, are you kidding me? Not for you.
Well, whatever your goal is, obviously self-servingly, if it's to write a presentation, that can be a goal. But let's say it's to find the love of your life, or maybe drop some weight, you know, maybe that's a goal, right, of yours. Whatever your goal is, well, here's what I want you to do. Just take one small action a day. And let me define small action. Small action is join Dr. Nilda and Rachel on their next, Facebook Live or their next thing, right? To do some research. It could be to go on Google and, pull up some articles and read. It could be to go to a live event, right? Do just one small action a day. And here's why. When you do that over the course of a year, that's 365 actions that you'll have taken. And so oftentimes you'll find out it doesn't take you a whole year to get to where you want to go. It takes you a lot quicker because of this idea of momentum. But if you were like me in college and you waited until the last minute to write the paper and turn it in, you're going to get a lot worse results and a lot more stress in your life. So just chunk it out, one small action a day.
I love that. That's an excellent idea. I love it. Because you know what? This is what we do. We use all of these tools to make sure that we get our goals. We have goals for the week, goals for the month. We keep breaking them down, and then we have them for the day. And you know what? This is what we've learned, that even if you don't get it all done in one day, you're going to be a lot further than if you had no plan. A plan will always get you further. So that's an action. That action plan is ideal. I love that. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for taking your time. I know how busy you are. I know all the things that you're doing because we try to get a hold of you every day. So I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate you being here. And I thank you. I thank you so much for your words of wisdom, for your information. I recommend that everyone buys a book. We're going to have the link. Rachel has probably put the link up already. She's amazing. She's great. So Rachel will have the link. We're going to, I say, get the book. If you do nothing else, that will be your action for the day. Get the book. But if you can get the book and go to Amplify, get the book and go to Amplify. And if you get the book, go to Amplify and take the class. I say, get the book, go to Amplify, take the class. Okay. So we look forward to seeing you, spending time with you. We'll probably be there a few days early because we want to spend time with you and again, sit by your feet and just learn. We keep learning so much from you. So thank you so much, Dustin, for what you've done. Thank you, Rachel, for being my co-host, and I'm breaking her in and she's learning. So she's doing good.
Thank you so much, Dustin.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
So, thank you so much, Dustin. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See ya.
I want to thank you for being with us on Business Foresight, always creating strategies towards an extraordinary future. Remember, I'm here with you with strategies every Saturday. I'll see you next week.